Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segments on analysing the Chaos Space Marine Codex. Today I'm going to look at the Dark Apostle. Now this isn't a unit I've actually used yet in 8th, but I'm becoming more and more convinced by him as a good support character the more I have read on him. So if you haven't seen these videos before, how it usually works is I'm going to talk about the unit's stats, war gear and special abilities as you find them in the codex, and then I talk a wee bit about my own tactics in terms of loadouts I prefer for them, artifacts that I find quite useful on them, legion traits, warlord traits if applicable, psychic abilities that may help the unit in general, and also stratagems, and then give a wee bit of a conclusion. So yeah, with that, let's have a look at the Dark Apostle. Dark Apostle has movement of 6, pretty standard, a weapon skill of 2+, and a bliss skill of 3+, so generally you can see more advantage towards close combat, which is general for most units in the Chaos Space Marine Codex, especially including the buff ones. Very few units do I find that they'd, prefer the bliss skill over the weapon skill, maybe Tau or something, but we're not talking about them today. So yeah, generally hitting easier in combat. Strength and toughness of 4, again as standard for most Marines. 4 wounds, which again I think is standard for most sort of support characters or even Chaos Lords. Chaos Lord has 5, so a little bit less wounds than them. 3 attacks, so again less attacks than other characters, so again the Dark Apostle is a support character, so don't expect him to do the heavy lifting as such. Leadership of 9, which, yeah, okay, not bad either. Does play more of an effect later on as it does have an ability that does help you. And a 3+ save, because he's not rocking Terminator armour and can't wear Terminator armour. So yeah, pretty standard for Marine on that side, special support one. Dark Apostle is a single model armed with a power maul, bolt pistol and frag and crack grenades. Now I'm not going to talk about all the weapons in detail, the only one I will bring up is the power maul because it's sort of his signature weapon. It's a melee weapon with strength +2, putting him on strength 6, which is nice. -1 AP, which is important, really nice to have a little bit of a backdrop onto armour, and a single damage. So yeah, you'd only be inflicting 3 damage per turn if all hit all wounds. But again, he's not the one that's going to be causing the most damage, unless you get him out a wee bit better. This model is armed with a bolt pistol and may replace it with either an item from the pistol range or the combi weapon range. Now, I'm not a big fan of that, I'd rather keep him cheap. I will talk about that in my loadout section, but you do have the option if you wish to be a bit more shooty. But you are hitting on a 3+, so you'd have to decide that between yourself. So the ability is Goddess Death to False Emperor. Now I will not talk about it in detail because it's quite long. If you are playing Chaos Space Marines or have seen other videos, you will get an idea of what it is, but basically if you're playing against Imperium characters, when you roll 6+ to hit, you can roll an extra attack. Very standard for Chaos Space Marines, really good if you're playing Imperium, not so much anyone else. Dark Zealotry. This is sort of his signature ability. You can reroll failed hit rolls in the fight phase for friendly Legion units that are within 6 inches of the Dark Apostle. Now that's his sort of like signature move, you're getting to reroll all failed hit rolls in the fight phase. So that's really handy, especially if you are bringing sort of a very combat heavy army. You want to make sure the Dark Apostle is buffing them as much as possible so you can max out those attacks. Obviously because rerolls take before modifiers, you don't get to rerolls -1s to hit. But still, really handy to have that. So certainly he wants to be in a bunch of combat because it's only during the fight phase, not so much during the shooting. So obviously he wants to be in combat with the boys. Demagogue, if I'm pronouncing that right. All friendly Legion units that are within 6 inches of the Dark Apostle in the morale phase can use his leadership instead of their own. So if you are got units that are only leadership 7 or 8, having that extra bit of morale will keep 1 or 2 going a little bit longer. So this guy has 2 order abilities, one for morale phase and one for fight phase. Generally really nice to have. So you can see why this guy is a buff character. And he does have a Sigil of Corruption. This model has a 4-up invul. So this guy has a 4-up invul, keeping him a lot more survivable. Generally quite nice to have. Not many of the other support characters have an invul save as such. You know, I don't think even a sorcerer has one unless in Terminator armour. So having the Sigil of Corruption really will keep his survival up quite a bit longer. So yeah, that is sort of the Dark Apostle as you find them in the Codex. The most important thing I feel from that is obviously their reroll to hit aura, which for certain units, as I'll go into now, is kind of handy. So let's talk about loadout suggestions and or role for the Dark Apostle. I've only got one real loadout for him, and you can disagree with me. I call it, hey guys, I'm just here to cheer you on. Dark Apostle with Power Ball, Bolt Pistol, Frag and Crack Grenades. So as standard, not taking any other pistols. So Dark Apostle really is not there to cause unbelievable damage himself, though the Power Ball is helpful. This is your kind of cheap go-to loadout because you want to keep him cheap. He wants to help people do the damage and not do the heavy lifting himself. As I said, you can debate the combi weapons or the pistol if you want to spice things up a wee bit. Me personally, I would just take the bolt pistol, you know, and just keep them a little bit cheaper. Put those points somewhere else. Artifacts of Chaos, got a few here that I feel might be able to help. The Black Mace, so because it's a weapon I'll just need to go into the Relic section. So the Black Mace, now the Black Mace was an interesting one in 7th edition. What is now is a model with Power Maul only. The Black Mace replaces the bearer's Power Maul and has the following profile. It's melee, it's strength +3, so that's bringing you up another strength, -2 AP, so you're minus another AP, and doing 2 damage. So basically all the stats went up by 1 as far as I'm aware, which is kind of nice for a relic. In addition, roll a d6 each time the model is slain by the Black Mace. On a 6, that model's unit suffers additional mortal wounds at the end of the phase. So really nice sort of, you know, weapon to have there. In 7th edition, I believe the Black Mace was like the Scourge with like Dark Demon Princes. It was really, really awesome if I remember correctly. It caused unbelievable amounts of damage. Not as awesome anymore because Demon Princes, as far as I can tell, can't take it anymore. And also the stats are not as good as what it was before. This will fundamentally increase the Dark Apostle's abilities to cause damage if you're so inclined. If you have a Dark Apostle with a special character, then yeah, maybe think about using this as the artifact, because obviously a special character can't take an artifact. Your Dark Apostle might be a good option for it. Next up we have the Cursed Crozius. Again, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Word Bearers only. Yep, Word Bearers model with Power Maul only. The Cursed Crozius replaces the bearer's Power Maul and has the following profile. Melee, +2 strength, so same as before, -2 AP, so higher AP out, and 3 damage, so a lot more damage. Reroll all failed wound rolls for this weapon when targeting Imperium units. Now this becomes slightly, you know, slightly crazier with the Cursed Crozius with the Dark Apostle. Yeah, while we're in that, if you're playing Word Bearers and against Imperium, then I kind of like this one a lot. 1 less strength than the Black Mace, but 1 more AP and 1 more damage. Yep, sorry, no, same AP, but 1 more damage. However, being able to make those rerolls to wounds means you're 2+ to hit rerolling, and then on most things you're going to be maybe 3+ to wounds, maybe not against vehicles, but against Imperiums, you're going to be usually 3+ to wounds rerolling. That's awesome. That's really, really quite good. At 3 damage, you might really scare some characters with it, provided they don't have an invul save. But yeah, it turns them into a little bit more of a murder machine. So yeah, quite nice. Next up, Flesh Metal Exoskeleton Iron Warriors models only. The bearer of the Flesh Metal Exoskeleton has a save characteristic of 2+, so Dark Apostle wouldn't usually have access to a 2+ save, so having that is kind of handy. In addition, this model heals 1 wound at the start of each turn. So Dark Apostle doesn't have usually the 2+ save. This will keep him going a bit longer, provided there's nothing like power weapons or anything that's going to be hitting him absolutely for death. His job is to survive really and cause buffs around him. I don't think he's there to do the damage, he's there to let others do the damage. So if you can mitigate as much wounds off him as possible, all the better. So yeah, that's not a bad one to go with. Out of those, I really like the Cursed Crozius if you're playing Imperium. Otherwise, it's a bit of a flip between the Black Mason Flesh Metal Exoskeleton. I haven't played him yet, so I'm not entirely sure which is better, but interesting options to go for the Dark Apostle. Legion traits. So yeah, obviously we want to make sure Dark Apostle gets in combat with these guys that want to cause as much damage as possible, so thankfully the Chaos Space Marine Codex does have Legion traits that do benefit this. I think I spoke about quite a few of these in previous ones because obviously a lot of the Chaos characters do like combat. So let's go with Renegade Chapter's Dark Raiders. This allows a unit with this trait to advance and charge in the same turn. So the Dark Apostle's big job is making your combat units hit harder. This makes him and them move all the better towards their target. He can cause damage, but he's really there to go along for the combat, go along with the ride, and so really that's going to benefit the unit more, but really you want to get everyone within combat range, and this really helps it. However, if you're not worried about getting in combat and want to cause as much damage in combat, we'll go with World Eater's Butcher's Nails. When a unit with this trait makes a successful charge, you can make one additional attack with each of its models in the subsequent fight phase. So your Dark Apostle being able to reroll hits in the fight phase is really good. Why not add more dice to it? Honestly, great with Berserkers, because this fundamentally adds sort of 2 attacks onto their already impressive amount of attacks, because they get a fight twice in the fight phase, and they're getting to reroll hits as long as they have the Dark Apostle nearby. Yeah, this can cause untold damage. I think if you do take World Eaters and you take a lot of Berserkers, the Dark Apostle is definitely a unit to think about. You can take Karn, whose buff only works 1 inch, and if he misses he's going to lop some of his own guys' heads off. So yeah, maybe a Dark Apostle might help there, and it gives more rerolls because you can reroll all failed hits, so really nice. Emperor's Children, Flawless Perfection. Unit with this trait always fight first in the charge phase, so I think it's in the fight phase, even if they didn't charge. If the enemy has units that charged or that have similar abilities, then alternate choosing units, starting with the player whose turn is taking place. I've talked about this as a defensive buff, and that's why I truly believe it is, which I find more than anything, making charging less damaging if your opponent, you know, charges into your face with some scary units. A Horde army could rip apart your units before you get the chance. A Dark Apostle will allow you to strike back more accurately and make more attacks connect. So certainly if you've got him in a bit more of a defensive position with units, being able to have them strike before some of the units that your opponent charged with and he's causing them to reroll hits, all the better. So again, not another bad one to have a Dark Apostle right about in. And then finally we have Word Bearer's Profane Zeal. You can reroll morale tests for units with this trait. The Dark Apostle does give a boost to morale with his Demagogue ability, and this allows you to reroll the results. Not really tried this, as I'm not a huge fan of the ability. However, maybe take huge amounts of cultists, survive morale tests better, maybe pretty awesome. They are cheap and die in droves. The Dark Apostle will keep them from running a little bit longer, or, you know, this Legion trait may cause more to run. I mean, like, you might roll a 3 and fail, then roll a 6 and more run. Depends on your luck. However, this seems a little bit too, you know, sort of with the role of the Dark Apostle and Word Bearers, I've sort of had to include it in this, you know. Also have a fun wee strategy to talk about at the end. Warlord traits. I personally wouldn't recommend making your Dark Apostle your Warlord. There's a lot of better options out there, I feel. Demon Prince, but he can be the Warlord, so let's talk about that then. Unholy Fortitude. Add 1 to the wound characteristics of your Warlord. In addition, Roll a dice each time your Warlord loses a wound. On a roll of a 6, the Warlord shrugs off the damage and does not lose a wound. So this is all about survival, basically to keep him going a bit longer, keeps the rerolls coming for longer, which is what he's all about. Honestly, not bad. One extra turn of rerolls will pay off this Warlord trait exponentially. So even if he survives one more turn because of it, fantastic. He does have 4 wounds, so he can take some damage, not loads. Black Legion, first among traitors. The Death of False Emperor ability triggers an extra attack on a roll of 5+, instead of 6+, from models in Black Legion units that are within 6 inches of your Warlord. So, I heard your Dark Apostle likes buffs, let's give him some more buffs. Works really well possibly to get more attacks and in turn more rerolls against Imperium units. You know, if you know you are playing against an Imperial army, then yeah, this is not really a bad option to have. You know, I personally then yeah, it's sort of an okay trait. You're going to get a lot more attacks, a lot more rerolls, chances to get them. I mean, those hits can then generate more attacks because he gets to reroll them on a 5+. Generally makes him a lot more of a buff unit, which is really, really handy. Black Legions is not sort of my go-to Legion, mainly because I'm not a fan of the trait, but if you're playing against Imperiums, this makes it all the more tempting, and a Dark Apostle is fundamentally having 6 aura ability, 3 6-inch aura abilities is really, really nice. Yep, Wordbearers, the voice of Logar. Increase the range of any aura abilities on your Warlord's data sheet by 3 inches. Having a bigger aura ability will put the Dark Apostle's abilities to more use for further units around him. Generally may be better in bigger games, but in small games where you are covering, you know, more of the board, you know, you need to try and cover as much as possible, this will work out quite nicely. Just gotta watch your spacing, but having that extra 3 inches around him does make a huge, huge benefit. Diabolic Strength. We're going to talk about psychic abilities here. So Diabolic Strength, one of my favourites. Warp Charge 6, select a Heretic Stars model within 12 inches of the Psyker until the next fight phase, add 2 to the model's strength and 1 to the model's attack characteristic. So this would turn your Dark Apostle into the all-important Strength 8 with 4 attacks, which is not bad when you're hitting on 2s re-rolling. The Power Maul may only cause 1 damage, but then again there are relics to make that even better. So yeah, don't discount it completely. You know, Diabolic Strength with a good relic can really make the Dark Apostle quite a wee terrifying character, along with the rerolls as well. Generally can be quite nice. Secondly, I'm going to bring up Death X, Warp Charge 8. If manifested, select a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of the Psyker. Until the start of the next psych phase, this unit cannot take invul saves. So this does not affect the Dark Apostle as such, but more the unit he is accompanying. Invul saves can be a bit an absolute pain, so you want to make sure that your attacks are connecting better, in turn wounding, and they are not being discounted. Really depends on the unit that you are targeting and their invul save that they have. I know I hate Storm Shields, and I think I'm going to soon be hating Necron Wraiths as well. So if you've got a unit with, like, let's say a decent AP, maybe like power weapons or lightning claws on like Chosen for instance, you want to make sure those invul saves don't have an effect, being able to reroll those misses and make sure those wounds connect better. This seems like a really, really nice ability to go along with it. Death X is really good if you know you are facing an invul heavy army. So lastly, stratagems I'd recommend. There wasn't many that I could sort of recommend as such. There's sort of ones you can go for. I think there's the bolt pistol one where you can cause D3 mortal wounds, which I'm generally not a big fan of for one command point. But there's one I'm a big fan of, and it is Forward Operations Alpha Legion only. This one's really long to explain, I'm not going to explain it, but it basically gives you that sort of infiltration ability that we're all a big fan of. The Dark Apostle does not have access to a jump pack, which is very, very important, meaning mobility is not, you know, going to be easy to get his aura abilities off unless he's in a Rhino. This gives him a chance to set up in a bit more of an ideal position, along with maybe the other units that he's with, you know, let's say Alpha Legion Khorne Berserkers, and charge in and cause some chaos. So yeah, this one works really, really well, especially for a buff character, along with you know, units that are going to infiltrate in as well and cause some real havoc. So yeah, that's sort of my view on the Dark Apostle. As I said, I haven't actually used him in an 8th edition battle report. Certainly if I do end up playing a lot more combat heavy ones, I will definitely give him a bit of consideration, because those rerolls to hit can be super helpful. One thing I'd be interested to do is that you can actually pair him up possibly with Exalted Champion, which I believe I will be talking about in my next video. And his ability is certainly in the fight phase you get to reroll all failed wounds for units within 6 inches. So you know, Dark Apostle's hits, Exalted is wounds, which can be quite a scary combination if you've got some hard hitting units in the fight phase. One other thing I'd like to see as well is that a 2000 point game, if you for instance took a Dark Apostle and you took, let's say, all the rest of the points on the cultists, I think you get 100 cultists for 400 points, so let's do some math. You can get 100, that would be 200, 300, 400. So you're going to roughly fit in, I think 500 or 2000 point, minus off the Dark Apostles ones. You're fitting in like 350, 380, someone can do the math for me there, cultists, which sounds like a lot of fun and a lot of dice. And if you're rerolling those hits, that's going to take you a long time, and your opponent's going to probably just give up, because you're going to go, right, 380 dice, if by some miracle they don't all die. Here's all the dice, and I'm going to try and reroll all those ones, so let's count them out. Your opponent will be like, that's going to take too much time, and you're having a laugh, so it's okay. Make them World Eaters, and on the charge, that like 400 plus dice becomes double if they all survive, which is again insane, provided they are all within range of your Dark Apostle. So that's going to work out to be like 900 dice, which sounds again like a lot of fun, provided none are dead. Loads of rerolls, sounds a lot of fun. If you do that, can you please send us a photo of you with, you know, 400 plus cultists, a Dark Apostle, and rolling the dice? I would love to see that photo. If you want to make it a bit more feasible, maybe go Iron Warriors, because I believe if you make the Iron Warrior your Warlords, if I'm right, oh man, I should really look at this first, make him your Warlords. Friendly Iron Warrior units within 6 inches of your Warlord automatically pass morale tests. So your cultists will die in droves, but if you make sure all of them at least sort of get around your Iron Warrior Warlord, then they won't run away, which means you can have loads of them in this 2000 point battle just charging up the field. I don't own that many cultists, not even close, but I like to roll a lot of dice, and it sounds like a lot of fun, and getting all those rerolls sounds like it would take a lot of time and really annoy David or Will. So yeah, I can imagine some fun there if possible, but generally the Dark Apostle is a great, you know, sort of support character. I would see him in great use in sort of lots of possessed, lots of Khorne Berserkers as well. So yeah, I would definitely try and get him to be used in further battle reports. So yeah, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. Let me know what your thoughts on Dark Apostle are as a preferred loadouts. Have you found a unit that he does really actually roll about with really well? Comment below, let me and other viewers know your thoughts. Check us out on social media, where we post some community, you know, sort of updates on what's going on in the hobby, as well as our own projects. And also check us out on Patreon, because we post some extra stuff there, and it generally helps keep us going. The support is always helpful. So thanks again, and we'll see you on another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.